Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. And by the way, this is a bridge building episode with Alan Mosley. And here is Alan Mosley.
I like how even with another attempt at it, you still didn't do the word until you had to remind yourself live that you didn't say the word again.
Man, it's been a morning. Dude, it's been a morning. One of those days.
So does this mean that this is episode 67 or 68?
No, it's the same one that we tried to shoot last time, and I completely forget to hit record. You know, what the heck?
Mm-hmm. You know, I've sat in this chair and I've looked into that camera and I've told people that I have the best producer in podcasting.
You don't. I don't have a perfect record. I try. But sometimes I don't hit record.
No, it's okay. Nobody bats 1,000. It's fine. We're all fine here. Good.
I hope
How
so.
are you?
I don't know.
You all right?
Yeah.
You need a drink?
No, I'm fine.
No.
I don't need a drink.
Okay.
Because
sure?
the last time I tried to take a drink of that cold Pepsi, it about blew up in my face. I think you saw that. It was a bad thing. Don't try to drink absolutely cold Pepsi. It'll blow your face off.
What's wrong with you? It's the same drink I have. You know, guys, welcome. Turn off your microphone. You've already had enough. Thank you. Guys, welcome back to the Gold Standard. I am your host, Alan Mosley. You can join us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is @AlanandMosley, but you don't have to do any of that. You can just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com. Boy, that sounds really familiar. It's like I've said that sometime in the last 5 minutes. No. You keep that off. I'm just talking at you. You keep your microphone off. So, anyway, guys, we have to get to our guest. Michael took notes during the break to try to memorize his own answers that he just said so that he could say them again. He was a liberty activist and event organizer for over 10 years. He's the founder and chair of the LP Mises Caucus as well as the recent Mises PAC. He is Michael Heise. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So you've now been on the program twice. So you started earlier before we went on. You had asked, is this my first or second time? So now technically it's second.
We'll have to shoot for the third time sometime down the line.
Okay. So this is so bad for our fans at home because I asked Michael if a hot dog is a sandwich, and he answered the question, but that's done now, and I don't ask the same question more than once, so now we have to move on.
Well, I'll add another point to it as to why it's not a sandwich.
Okay.
You don't traditionally take a sandwich and put it in the middle of cornmeal, and it's good, but you can do that with a hot dog and have a corn dog.
A hot dog and cornmeal.
Corn dogs, man.
Wait, hold on. Corn dog. Wait, hold on. Where are you from, Michael?
Pennsylvania.
There it is. He's talking about corn dogs. That's a corn dog. That's not a hot dog. It's a corn dog.
You keep your microphone. You've lost microphone privileges. We're done with you. I apologize for Blake today, everybody.
You don't cut up sandwiches and eat them with mac and cheese. You don't put them in cornmeal.
Okay, hold on though. I'm not talking about just the link of meat. I'm talking about a hot dog as in the hot dog in a bun, the whole product. A hot dog is a hot dog sandwich. The hot dog in a bun is a sandwich. But you don't get to say a sandwich isn't made up of its component parts. A sandwich is the concept of a sandwich is the sum of when you have tomatoes and meat and cheese and whatever. A hot dog is a hot dog. Well, yeah, but that's just semantics. I'm talking about a hot dog as in if you went to a stall and you ordered a hot dog and he hands you the bun with the radish and the mustard and the stuff. That's a sandwich. He handed you a sandwich. That's what he handed you. That would be a hot dog sandwich, but on its own, a hot dog is not a sandwich. Well, okay, that's fine. That's like saying a tomato on its own is a tomato, but if you put tomato in bread, now it's a tomato sandwich. This is, but no. Now, sir. Now this is your fault now, Michael. Now you're taking the heat off of Blake and putting it on you. So now. Is cereal a soup?
Ooh. No, I've never thought of that one.
But because cereal is some type of mixture in a bowl of milk, and the milk is the broth, so that's a form of soup.
I don't know. I've never associated a soup with being sweet, and most cereal is sweet.
What about gazpacho?
A what?
I'm not from that country.
Gazpacho, right? Isn't that how you call it?
He's literally a Nazi, so don't talk to him. So okay, now that we've got that, that's all the time we have for it. No. So Michael, as we discussed a minute ago before we were so rudely interrupted by my evil producer who's trying to sandbag the program, I've pulled up the website here, lpmisescaucus.com, and we've already shared. So I think some people, they hear caucus, they hear PAC, and they hear the LP part, and they get that, oh, that's part of the Libertarian Party. I get that. But they don't really know what a caucus is or what it does or what a PAC is or what it does. So explain that again for people at home, for that terminology is brand new.
So a caucus is basically just an informal group within a political party. And these different groups might have different directions that they would like to see the party that they're in move into. So like, for example, on the Republican side, you've got the Liberty Caucus and the Freedom Caucus. With us, we have the same thing in the LP, even though we're much smaller. So you got the what's called the Pragmatic Caucus, which that's the group of geniuses that wanted Bill Weld to run for president. But so you got the Pragmatic Caucus, you got the Radical Caucus, and then you got the Mises Caucus, and then there's some others, but they're much smaller. Now a PAC, PAC, that stands for Political Action Committee, and basically what that is it's a political nonprofit organization that collects money to spend it for a variety of different purposes. So what we're doing with it is we're what's called a hybrid PAC. So what that means is that we have one committee but two bank accounts. And so what the one bank account is well, each of those bank accounts basically has different regulations around them and different things that we can do with them because of those regulations. Now the federal PAC, the traditional PAC, what we're going to be doing with that is collecting money, and we are collecting money, and to give direct financial assistance to principled viable candidates at the local and county levels around the country, because that is the area where libertarians can and do win, and it's where you can maximize having limited resources, which us as a third party do. Now, the Super PAC, what we want to do with that is we want to basically use that to pay volunteers to go out and knock doors and lobby for, I know this is kind of an oxymoron, but liberty legislation. Mm-hmm. So, what I mean by that is, it could be a statewide initiative effort to legalize gold and silver as money, or it could be a local ordinance to ban the police from enforcing federal gun control laws, or to ban the use of stingray technology or facial recognition technology, stuff like that. We have a page on the website called Our Actions, where if you go there, there's a whole list of these different pieces of legislation at the local and state level that to kind of give you an idea of what our 40 plus organizers around the country are being asked to work on.
Now I'm gonna prompt you for this one because you had a really good answer a minute ago. You had first described the Mises Caucus specifically to me as focusing on Austrian economics, anti-war, and continuing the spirit of the Ron Paul Revolution. And I told you that second one, anti-war, that sticks out to me. Not I mean, obviously that's something you and I believe in, but it seems to me like how can that not be a key issue of every libertarian? I mean, that to me that's like the core of libertarianism is non-aggression. And
well, there's a split. There's multiple splits in the libertarian movement, and I would say there's a big split between the liberty movement and the party itself. Mm-hmm. So there are certain elements within the Libertarian Party that feel that playing politics is more important than showcasing our principles. And on a surface level, that kind of makes sense because it is a political party, and the purpose is to get elected and all of that. So to people who that takes precedent, I think they see nobody really cares about the anti-war position, and that's not a winner. That's not going to get us people, and so it's not focused. I think you're right that it is a core issue for most libertarians, but I think politically it's not focused on enough for those reasons. Whereas I would say when you are a third party like us, you want to win elections, but there's a character to how that's done. And I would say if we sell our souls to become a political entity, and that being the most important thing, then we're not going to get very far. Whereas Well, we'll use the Ron Paul example. I think Ron Paul basically ran a message campaign, and that's what he intended it to be. And then by doing that, he did better politically than if he tried to play politics. Yeah. So I think our principles are in and of themselves inspiring and motivating. And if we just get behind them with conviction, then people will come our way.
Now, I'm setting this up for something, so stay with me. But I want to move to that last one that you mentioned, continuing the spirit of the Ron Paul revolution. Now, for those at home who don't really keep up with the internal politics or the drama side of things, so this might be news for some people, and I want you to kind of share your thoughts. Are there people in the Libertarian Party who don't appreciate Ron Paul?
There's people in the Libertarian Party and even some aspects of leadership. Now, I don't want to, collectivize all leadership, but some aspects of leadership that actually dislike Ron Paul and don't want his influence in the party. It's very disturbing. There's a lot of reasons for it. I mean, some of it is if people are familiar with the Cato and the Mises Institute, there's been kind of a split between the two of them that goes back a long way. And branding-wise, I would say that the LP, generally speaking, is more identifiable with the Cato side of things. And again, it kind of makes sense on the surface because Cato focuses on policy, and we're a political party, and that's the kind of shit that we need to implement. So, it makes sense. But the split between them has been very nasty to where... And in my view, in my experience, it's being upheld by the Cato side. And again, I don't want to collectivize Cato. There's a lot of good people at Cato that do a lot of good work, but there are certain elements and certain people that are really keeping this feud fueled. And it's just manifested in really nasty ways to where you have the chair of the Libertarian Party basically saying that Ron Paul 2008 was like a Russian proxy. You know what I mean? Like crazy stuff like that, or that Ron Paul is a racist, or Ron Paul is a paleoconservative, or he's just a Republican, and all that stuff. When the truth of the matter is I experienced the Ron Paul revolution, and I experienced the Gary Johnson campaign. And my experience between those two things is a big part of what helped me to conceptualize the Mises Caucus, because the Ron Paul campaigns, the energy was absolutely amazing. We were all united. We were all cohesive. Every time you met a new Ron Paul supporter or libertarian, it was like you met a new best friend. We all knew what we were working towards. Versus the Gary Johnson campaign, where it was just nobody was motivated. Half of the organizers didn't even know what they were doing. His rhetoric was not inspiring. He just didn't have charisma. Mm-hmm. And the people on the ground working the campaign were so busy defending themselves from Trumpers, so busy defending themselves from Bernie Sanders people, that it was just a nasty environment the entire time. So what I wanted to do was to be able to recreate that kind of environment and that kind of energy, because it was the strongest, in my experience, it's the strongest that the Liberty Movement has ever been. And the problem with it is that it was just one campaign, just one guy. So my observation is if we could ever recreate that energy and that positive feedback loop that he started in an organization as opposed to a single campaign, theoretically it never has to die. It could just keep going and going and going. Mm-hmm. And I feel on a small scale, we've got that going on for us right now.
Well, kind of tying those first 2 points in together, when Dr. Paul was on the show with us about a month ago now, he had made the claim that the peace candidate always wins. And that might seem odd to the person on the street, because they might be thinking, well, I mean, we have more and more wars, more bombs, more drones, and so, what peace candidate are you talking about? And of course, he said, qualifying that, it's relative, right? Like, compared to Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump was a peace candidate. Compared to John McCain, Barack Obama was a peace candidate. So he would make the argument that the peace candidate always wins. And I guess it just that was just something that crawled into my mind just now while you were speaking, that it strikes me as odd as someone who, you and I have talked before, and you know that I'm kind of outside the political side of things. But it strikes as purely an interested observer, it strikes me as odd that there are libertarians who don't view the war issue as a key issue, and that there's also libertarians who don't view Ron Paul as significant, when those issues are very much linked. And to me, that is like the groundswell for the liberty movement is peace. I mean, what am I missing here with these folks?
It's just has to do with whether you weigh principles or politics, in my opinion. And if you view politics as the primary driver, or then you might say, well, that this isn't an important this isn't an important issue politically. Whereas it's an extraordinarily important issue principally. It's an extraordinarily important issue morally, and it's also an extraordinarily important issue in terms of what drives the growth of the state itself. But if you don't see a peacenik getting elected in forever, and you're focused on politics, then you might not think that is pragmatically a productive stance to put front and center, even if it is your belief. So again, it just goes back to the split of should we focus on telling the truth about our principles and putting them on a pedestal and motivating and inspiring people, which I would say, yes, that's first, or are we going to play political games and chase the political action? Now, again, obviously it's a political party. We want to get people elected, but again, there's a character to how it's done, in my opinion.
Now, we've also had Jeffrey Tucker on the show, and I know some people have different opinions about Tucker, and I like him. He was an awesome guest to have, and we talked a little bit about this exact subject. And his comment is that he felt that Ron Paul was very significant for the liberty movement. However, he fears that it's kind of like having all your eggs in one basket, that when you have this huge groundswell behind a single unifying character, and then the inevitable happens, which is a dark horse or a third-party candidate doesn't win a major national election, then the people who were brought in by the principles, you may have those people. And I'm not saying that's not important, but a lot of those people, then you might recognize this, you see a lot of people that may have been Ron Paul 08 people yesterday, now they're Bernie. Or now they're part of the Yang Gang. Now they're whatever. And so you kind of find out they're really more just kind of anti-establishment than they really are.
But I personally think that's in some ways an indictment on the Libertarian Party itself. Now, before I make my point of why, I want to add, we've done all this Ron Paul talk, I want to add that we actually carry the Ron Paul endorsement. If you go to our Facebook page, go to our videos, there's a video titled Ron Paul's Message to the Mises Caucus, and he refers to us as the libertarian wing of the Libertarian Party, and we have that endorsement. So if you're a Ron Paul revolutionary, this is where you want to be. Now, to go back, I feel like I might have forgotten what the point was.
Wait, hold on really quick. Is that the same video I saw in New Orleans last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the point that I didn't go?
Well, so I guess ultimately what I was getting at is that Tucker was making the argument that having this one big figure and then kind of losing people.
Right.
Yeah.
So the point that I like to make a lot about the Libertarian Party that I feel like is an indictment on it is that there's millions of people in this country that consider themselves libertarians. There's only 16,000 Libertarian Party members, or 17,000 Libertarian Party members. Now, there's 500,000 people registered as libertarians, but the number of those people who are engaged in the party or involved in the party is tiny. I mean, we have like 40,000 people registered as libertarians here in Pennsylvania, and, I would say maybe 100 to 150 tops show up to the state conventions. Mm-hmm. And that's probably a generous number. So our retention ratio is really bad. And again, there seems to be a culture in the Libertarian Party that is arrogant, where it's like, oh, because we are the Libertarian Party, because we have the name, if you consider yourself a libertarian, you're obligated to be here. Where I would say that we should look at it more like a business, meaning that the members are something more approximating our customers. Mm-hmm. and we need to treat it as such. So if the vast majority of the liberty movement is saying, we don't want to join, we think it's embarrassing, we like Ron Paul, we're anti-war, we're this or that, then if you want to be successful, then you're going to have to do that, because the alternative is, let's say we did become politically successful, right? Let's say we get somebody in the presidential debates and overnight we become a major political party and we're not ready for it. There's going to be at some point a whole bunch of people who aren't necessarily philosophically libertarians joining the party because, they might be anti-establishment, they might be single issue voters, they might be disgruntled with the two-party system. So it's really important that we have a very strong infrastructure of principled libertarians holding the officer position so we can kind of shepherd the noobs,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So let's take a quick step back before we move forward. Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. How long has the Mises Caucus been around, and how has this early going of differentiating itself from maybe the LP National? How has that gone for you?
It's been great, actually. So it started in August of 2017.
Okay.
And what kind of launched us, because we got off to a very, very fast, unexpected start. Because, like I said, I compared the experience of the Ron Paul campaign to the Gary Johnson thing, and I'd been kicking this idea around for months. And then finally, I just made the Facebook group. And now I don't use Twitter. So some people think I did this like nefariously. I didn't. It was a coincidence, I swear, but it worked to our benefit all the same. I don't use Twitter. So turns out the same night that I made that Facebook group, Nick, the chair of the Libertarian Party, Nick Sarwark, was on Twitter calling Tom Woods a Nazi. and so that obviously pissed a lot of people off, and I kind of organically absorbed the fallout of that basically overnight. Mm-hmm. And so that became like okay, we are going to raise an army and get rid of the chair. So then we had a chair candidate. His name was Joshua Smith, that we actually crowdfunded enough money to get him around to like 22 state conventions or something like that, which is pretty remarkable. These are volunteer positions and it's a third party. And so he did very well. And very well in getting our name around to all of these, in addition to running a good campaign. But he ultimately didn't win the chair spot. But he did get easily what's called an at-large seat on the Libertarian National Committee. And then our endorsement for vice chair actually did win. Mm-hmm. So there was a huge groundswell around that. And right after the convention, even though Josh didn't win, we had another big influx because Tom Woods joined the Libertarian Party and said that, he was there to support us. Dave Smith joined the Libertarian Party and said it was to support us. You mentioned Mance Raider. He joined the Libertarian Party mm-hmm. and said it was because of us. So some of the most popular figures all came together and joined us. And then not to mention, at the convention, we kind of did what Ron Paul did in 2012 for their national convention at the Sundome. We had like a side event because they wouldn't let us have it at the convention. I was blocked from having an event with the convention where we had speakers like Tom Woods, Scott Horton, Bob Murphy. We had like 6 or 8 crypto speakers there. We had Walter Block there. It was amazing. And we had like 500 people, but they wouldn't let us have it. So we had to have it like a half a mile down the street. Yeah. And so there was all these positive things, but once the convention was over, it's like, all right, we can't, the chair is going to be the chair for the next 2 years. There's nothing we can do about that. We have to do something with what we built, though, because mm-hmm. it was a very genuine effort. And so what we did is we went back to the drawing board, started doing the less sexy work of, building spreadsheets, building plans, building roles. What's the vision? How are we going to do it? All that kind of stuff. And so we've come back and said, all right, well, the plan is that we should follow a decentralized revolution. We should build from the ground up. Because I'm of the opinion that even though right now I think you can make an argument that if you are a libertarian and you are politically engaged, in the short term, I think you can make a legitimate argument that the GOP is more viable for big action, federal action, because they've got Rand, they've got Massey, they've got Amash, they've got Mike Lee, and then Young Americans for Liberty just got 38 Ron Paul Republicans elected to State House in their first year mm-hmm. of trying. So like I could totally see the argument there. And if you want to affect state politics and you want to affect national politics and that's what you want to do, then I can't really argue against it. However, I do think long term we're going to have to build our own thing because we're not welcome there. You see what happens as long as the GOP is our most viable effort, we're always going to be juggling competing interests to maintain our principles while also surviving in a party that doesn't want us. you know?
Yeah.
So I think long term we have to build our own thing, and that starts from the ground up.
Well, let me ask you this. You feel like long-term building your own thing is the right thing to do because over time, kind of, I guess the idea of, some people used to take the strategy of, join the GOP, change from within. But I feel like a lot of people have ultimately decided that's too big. That's too much to do. There's too much invested interest against that sort of change. So then let's fast forward a little bit. I know that you had mentioned to me once before ballot issues such as mushrooms in Denver, or marijuana in various states. I know you had also mentioned stingrays. I wanted to say really quick, these are a lot of things that I've discussed with Mike Meharry and Michael Bolden on this show several times. Very 10th Amendment Center-esque type things.
We're actually partnered with them.
Yes, I wanted you to comment on that.
Yeah, no, so we're getting to the super PAC side of it. And so again, we have to build from the ground up. And if we're dealing in politics, we're dealing with politically active people. So right now, people don't really know about us. People think that we're just some fringe third party and that we're not relevant. So it's one thing to win all the arguments, and we do because we're just right. Like we're right. And that's one thing. But to actually get it to implement it in the real world, you kind of have to cross that logical bridge into people trusting us or people trusting our ideas, or at least people seeing in a tangible way our ideas at play. So I think the fastest way to do that is issue coalitions, where people come together for a common cause and nobody has to sell out. Nobody else has to give anything. We're not trying to make socialist capitalists, and we'll make it very clear that we're not going to be down with socialism. But we can throw that to the side for this one issue and get something. And that's exactly what happened with the Denver psilocybin initiative. I had talked to that guy, the executive director of that effort, before it was ever on the ballot there. And when I reached out, he said that I was the first libertarian that had reached out to him. So that kind of pissed me off, and I, contacted some people. I got him on Mance Rayder's podcast. I got him on the Tom Woods show. Got him on several libertarian podcasts. And then my organizer in Colorado got him in front of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. They passed a resolution to support him. He was then able to recruit some volunteers to knock doors and help the effort. Well, that thing passed by less than 2,000 votes, and it came down to the absentee ballots.
Yeah.
They actually reported that it failed prior to the absentee ballots coming in, and then that thing covered the spread. So, but when you're talking about that slim of a margin, you got to think that our effort counted for something. And not only that, but in my last phone calls with the executive director of that effort, he's now referring to himself as a libertarian. So this is what I mean. You start to earn trust, you start to build bridges, and you don't have to sell out because these were, the drug issue is owned by the left. Even though the drug war is vehemently opposed by libertarians, publicly speaking, in the public consciousness, it's owned by the left. So we can build that bridge and work together. And now we're players because of that. Now, what happened after that is Oakland, California passed an initiative upping the ante. They decriminalized shrooms, but they actually decriminalized all natural psychedelics. So they decriminalized DMT, ayahuasca, ibogaine, shrooms, all these things that the studies are showing have various mental health benefits, from addiction to PTSD to depression and anxiety. And not only that, I've read articles where there are now 80 groups who went to the group that did the Oakland effort to get the language and to find out how they did this. So this is spreading rapidly. And now we have our foot in the door with the people, with that, and we can help that effort. So I know that was long-winded but to go back to the 10th Amendment Center, yeah, we're partnered with Michael Bolden and the 10th Amendment Center because this is their bread and butter, is essentially using federalism to expose the fact that the vast majority of the federal government is unconstitutional, and using the sovereignty of the localities or the states to push back against that. And it's very effective. I mean, we see it all the time with marijuana, but because the drug war is owned by the left, quote unquote, it's not associated with constitutionalism like that. But it is. It's a nullification effort. So this allows us to make issue coalitions, which I think are the fastest bridge to earning that trust.
If you can, I won't pressure you to, but if you can, what are maybe some things that you guys are working on the horizon?
Well, so we just crossed a milestone. We are now making $1,000 a month in short order, and we didn't spend a nickel to get it, going to the traditional PAC. So that is to say, going to the candidate account. So we are vetting candidates, and we are picking our horses for the November elections. And we've already got at least 5 people that we're looking at. One of them is Maj Toure for Philly City Council.
Yeah.
So there's that. And on the other side of things, I'm going to keep talking with the Denver psilocybin people. I'm working here at home to actually, in Norristown, Pennsylvania, to decriminalize weed in my town, and that looks like it's going to happen. And not only does it look like it's going to happen, but it's looking like that they're actually going to put it in committee to finalize the language, and in so doing, I think it's going to end up being the best decriminalization ordinance in the entire state, because they want to add language to expunge people's records that have been arrested in my town for it.
Yeah.
So that's great. And as far as what's on the horizon, again, if you go to that Our Actions page on the website, you will see a list with sample legislation included that of what our organizers are doing. So we've actually recruited over 40 organizers around the country who are recruiting members from the Libertarian Party, and they're building on these issue coalitions, and they're basically surveying their areas and saying, okay, what's viable here? Can I get a gun safety bill here? Can I get a decriminalization bill here? So they have some autonomy in that way. But the Our Actions page is kind of a pool of activities from which they are choosing to pursue.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of strategy / ideology questions, and then we'll wrap up. I think one of the things that the LP National has been rightly criticized a lot for recently, but it has been and continues to be a selling point, is we roll our eyes today when we hear this. We're the fiscally conservative, socially liberal party. To me, that is probably the worst selling point in the history of mankind, and I say that and I say that specifically because to me, you're trying to show people, look, we're just like everybody else. And to me, that's the exact opposite message that you should be sending. So what's the message that the Mises Caucus sends?
Well, like I said, anti-state, anti-war, Austrian economics. But to address the socially fiscally liberal social, or you know what I mean, fiscally conservative, socially liberal. Yeah. So what that is that goes back to what's more important, politics or principles. And I think that approach is to, again, on the surface it makes sense because boomers are who votes, right? And usually boomers are going to have trouble crossing any big ideological bridges. They're set in their ways. So it's trying to appeal the reasonable alternative for the sake of those types of people, which on the surface I can understand. But again, my experience with Ron Paul got South Carolina to cheer loudly for legal heroin. Yeah. And all he did was go out there and tell the truth. I think we're twisting ourselves into pretzels on how do we sell this message? How do we sell this message? And it's very easy. You go out there and you tell the truth. That's it. And when the government is as big as it is when it's as corrupt as it is, when it's as indebted as it is, and when it's as dishonest and deceitful and shoveling as much propaganda down our throats as it is, the truth is pretty damn radical. Yeah. And so I would say just sticking with the truth. And the truth is the wars are wrong. They are making us less safe. The truth is that Keynesian economics is leading us to ruin. That is the truth. The truth is the government is a monopoly on violence. And we run our society off of violence. That is the truth.
Really quick, are there any other links, anything you want our listeners to be aware of? Places where people can go to get information, places where people can go to donate money, all of those types of things. Let's make sure that we have those.
Absolutely. So the main one is the lpmisescaucus.com, and there's a few choice pages on there that I would recommend people check out. I already mentioned the Our Actions page a couple times. The other one is we have on there called the Beginner's Guide to the LP. So if you are new to politics or new to party politics, it might seem really daunting. You might not know where to start. If you go to that page, it kind of gives you an idea of some of the basics of like Robert's Rules of Order, some of the, how the Libertarian Party is structured, some things you can do as you get started in your county level Libertarian Party. So that's an important one if you're new and maybe a little intimidated. And then the other link would be MisesPAC.com. And there you can give a donation to Mises PAC for our vision of a decentralized revolution from the bottom up. And you can do a recurring monthly donation for as little as $5. And like I said, we just crossed a milestone of getting, in about a month's time of effort, of real effort, $1,000 a month coming in. For a third party, that's good. I mean, we are already, that figure means that we're making more money than, I don't know how many, but a good number of state libertarian parties themselves. And we have the Ron Paul endorsement. So,
yeah.
And I guess I'll just give a plug to some of the projects that we're working on as well. These aren't websites, but they're just some projects that we're working on. So we're working on the candidates, working on the issues, but there's other stuff that we're doing as well. So we're getting ready to launch our store, which we got some cool swag in there, but we're also going to be launching some original monthly content called Ask an Austrian. So what that is we're going to be putting the website up with an email form. People can submit questions about Austrian economics, about libertarian ethics, libertarian theory. And we've gotten 2 senior fellows and 2 fellows from the Mises Institute that have made themselves available to answer these questions on camera, and we'll publish that. It's Ask an Austrian. The other thing that we're working on that I'm really, really excited about is we've reserved a date, September 21st, to have a peace rally in Washington, D.C. in front of the White House called Peace Over Politics. The idea here is to pull people, anti-war people from the left, from the right, and from the libertarian side to come together and individually promote to their audiences so that we can all come together and have this weird crowd of conservatives and liberals melting together to talk about what I think is the issue of our day, which is the war and peace.
Well, I definitely agree with that one 100%. I have to ask you really quick, is Mark Thornton one of the guys that's going to answer questions?
No, who we got right now is now we might add to the pool because depending on how good it goes, I want to make it bi-weekly. But we've got Walter Block, we've got Murray Sabrin, and I wanted to I didn't want to rely on just the senior fellows who everybody knows.
Sure.
So we also got Lucas Engelhart, who is a fellow, and C.J. Engel.
Okay, I don't know. You said Walter Block, and I got to tell you, Walter Block has been on this program, and I asked Walter Block if a hot dog was a sandwich, and he gave us, I shit you not, probably like a 35-minute answer that he talked about violence. He talked about age of consent, which, by the way, our eyes got about this big. He talked about every single issue under the sun and then wrapped all that up with, and therefore, the hot dog question is a continuum question and can't be answered. I was so blown away. And so I only say that because I actually genuinely hope those are the answers he gives people. I hope he gives...
My Walter Block story is he ended up showing up to the Take Human Action Bash, which is that kind of like separate event that I was telling you about.
Yep.
He showed up to that event, and I didn't have him listed to speak because he was hosting like their opening ceremony that night. And I actually walked up and apologized to him. I was like, look, they changed the timing on your ceremony after I put this together. I didn't mean for there to be any like collision, so I apologize. And he looked at me and was like, don't be crazy. And you know what I mean? He's like, you're fine. And I had made a mistake, and I thought that the next person in the speaking set was not present.
Yeah.
So I looked at Walter, and I'm like, you want to get up on the mic? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, I don't think our next speaker is here, so you would have like 25 minutes or whatever I think it was, and if you're up for it, then down. He's like, yeah. So this guy got up there and freestyled. Like 10 minutes later, he went over the bathroom, changed into something presentable, and then just went up there and freestyled for 25 minutes, and it was awesome.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I was at the Take Human Action Bash, and I got to say, just like with all events, I've done event planning, and I understand it's very hectic. Eric July got there eventually. Scott Horton got there eventually. Didn't he have his van broke down or?
So that was actually another story that I think really gave the event some heart. Where the night before, I went out to dinner with Tom and Bob and Mike Meharry and Bolden, and we all ended up hanging out at the venue spot. And I'm sitting there and I get a text from Scott saying, I'm 2.5 hours out, my transmission just died. Yeah. So I go, shit. And Tom looks at me, he's like, what's up? And I just showed him the phone and he's like, oh no. All right, well, let's get some fundraisers together and whatever. And then, so my buddy TJ Roberts actually went out on an envoy, got him, and within 24 hours, we raised the money for him to get his transmission fixed. He did, and didn't skip a beat. So he was like, he didn't, he wasn't late to be there, wasn't late to leave. And it was just something that, I think it was something where we could feel the spirit of the Ron Paul revolution. It was like this genuine heart thing, and it was awesome.
I think I think it came together very well. You had an awesome group of speakers. I got to say, you should do something like that in Tennessee. You should do something like that in our neck of the woods.
I would like to. We need to fill up that super PAC so we can have funds to do something like that. And I'll tell you what, man. I made one mistake with that, which is I relied on the alternative media for the recording of it, and I did not hire somebody to professionally record. Mm-hmm. Big mistake. So that thing is basically
I won't
lost,
forget to hit the record
like
button.
A legendary experience to the people that that were there. But the other aspect of it is that thing was all me. I mean, I had a financial backer, and I was the only organizer, and that whole time is like a blur. It was absolutely insane.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand. I know Sherry Voluntary and I have discussed potentially trying to get a get-together like that, get some speakers together, do something here in Tennessee. We were thinking if we were going to do it in Tennessee, we were going to do it in East Tennessee, which is closer out to where she lives, which is near the mountains. And, of course, the Appalachians are out here. So we were going to call it Ancapalachia.
Nice. Yeah, I'll give you something that we want to do down the line. Now this is I don't have these people's permission. This isn't an agreed upon thing. We're going to need to make some real money. Okay. So full disclosure. Okay. But an idea that I would really like to do once we're making real money is so our tagline is take human action. That's like our tagline. Sure. So I want to do something called the Take Human Action Tour, which is where we we'll start out small, 3 to 5 colleges, and then you get Jeff Dice there talking Austrian economics. You get Scott Horton there talking foreign policy. You get Tom there talking history. You get Michael Bolden there talking constitutional issues. And it's like a half-day seminar where, of course, we'll have a table there, and it's presented by us, and we'll sign people up. But these are the core issues, I would say, that fuel the caucus and fuel our effort and what we're all about. So it would be a very good representation, and I'm willing to bet that it would really inspire and motivate people. So the Take Human Action Tour.
Well, I would definitely endorse that. Every single one of those people have been on this program, and now we can say Michael Heise has been on this program. So how about that?
Complete.
Yeah, now we're. So this is it. This is the final episode of the Gold Standard. That's right.
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that I guess it was like episode 60 that we had Ron Paul on, and before we had, and so that was pretty recent. And before we had him on, we've had Bolden, Woods, Dice, Murphy, Tucker, Horton multiple times. Everybody you can think of. And since episode 60, people have only called me the guy who interviewed Ron Paul. So we're going to change our little tagline to the Gold Standard with the guy who interviewed Ron Paul.
Well, I'll leave you with a joke then. I've been telling this joke on all the podcasts I've done since we announced the PAC and everything. Is in a way, my life kind of ended the day that Ron endorsed us because now I don't have a choice but to make this work no matter what. You know what I mean? Like I have to make this work. I can't. What am I going to do? Let Ron Paul down? No, that's not an option. So like I have to make this work now.
I definitely understand. Pulling back up the website one more time, guys at home, that is lpmisescaucus.com. Mises is M-I-S-E-S for people who are totally out of the loop. lpmisescaucus.com. Michael Heise, thank you so much, man. You should come back and talk to us again.
It was fun, man. I will. Thank you.
We will be right back after this break. Hey, did you see the playoff games last weekend?
Oh, you're into the sports ball game.
Sports Ball with Mike Meharry and Alan Mosley. SportsBallPodcast.com.
Sports Ball is not a libertarian sports show. It's a sports show done by a couple of libertarians.
For when you need your bread and circuses. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com.
We're back.
You know, last week, when we had Rimzo on, I forgot to mention our friends.
Did you?
Because I'm the worst friend.
No, you're not.
No.
You're a pretty good guy.
I'm as good of a friend as you are a producer.
So I forget to hit the record button, producer.
So one of our friends is the other 3% on Facebook. That is at the other number 3%.
There you go.
Know your FUDs.
Know your FUDs.
This is Todd.
What is
Todd
a FUD?
thinks anyone who doesn't support Trump is a commie libtard SJW.
Oh,
what the
gosh.
hell is an anarcho-capitalist? Silencers are for pussies. Bump stocks are dumb toys. And he keeps his Beretta M9 in an Uncle Mike's holster locked in the glove box of his Ford F-150 just in case his fantasy of helping a cop in distress comes true.
Oh, man. Wow. That's good. That's rich.
Oh, God. Oh, that cleared my sinuses for some
Good.
weird reason.
Yeah.
That was very strange.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys like that, you know.
And you know who else is our friend is the Status Quo, and I'm going to pull up their site right here. This is their Facebook page.
Awesome.
This is for the Status Quo. You can find them on Facebook, which is @Statist, and they also have the statusquo.net. Yeah, like I said, I forgot to mention them. So that's Nick and Mike who host the Status Quo. Forgot them last week. I'm sorry, guys, but there you are.
There you go.
I think that's all we have.
Yeah. Well, what about our sites?
What about our sites?
Our Facebook, our Twitter, our Patreon.
Well,
Does anyone care?
I do those at the end. We're not done yet.
Okay, we're not done.
It's almost as if I know what I'm doing, but some people sitting at the white table over there don't.
Who don't hit record. I know.
Did you hit record this time?
Yes, of course.
Thank God for that.
I've been like double checking that like 300 times just to be sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've basically memorized all of Michael Heise's answers at this point because we've done it so many times.
Yeah, he did a great job.
No, yeah, he did a fantastic job. I mean, I had said, like, look, I'm not a member of the LP. I'm not going to become a member of the LP.
Right.
I went to New Orleans last year for the Taking Men Action Bash. It was excellently done. The speakers were great. Tom was great. Scott was great. Walter Block was great. Bob Murphy was great. Michael Bolden was great. I mean, you notice all of those people I'm naming who were all speakers at that event have been guests on this show.
That's right.
So we're a community.
That's
we're a
why
family.
more of those kind of shows need to be put on all over the country.
Yeah, they should. There should be more events like that. You know, they really need those. They really need us.
Yeah, they do need us.
They need the gold standard.
That's right.
But that's the thing though, is they really only need us because they can say it's for the gold standard, and then everyone in the audience will think, oh, they're going to talk about the gold standard.
Yeah.
And no. And we've never talked about the gold standard on this program,
have
and we
ever
never
talked
will.
about it. No.
You know, I got a request one time from somebody that said with a guest saying to come on to talk about the gold standard.
And no.
I kind of turned it down.
Oh, that's
It's because we're committed now.
Yeah.
We've set the bar
that we will not talk about
that we'll
the
never discuss the
actual
gold standard.
gold
And it's
standard.
not that I'm anti that, by the
Right,
way.
no.
It's just it's a thing.
Well, that's the point of talking
now
about it.
that we've gone almost
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
It's not.
We are so way past that now.
Yeah. So even though we use the little logo with the little gold coin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to talk about that once, but we never did.
You know, we got another Patreon subscriber.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
So now we have two?
No, we have way more than
Way
two.
more than two? See, I'm
Yeah.
out of the loop. I don't know these things.
What's like
Okay,
I'm
we have
gonna,
five.
Like
Okay.
I'm gonna share that with you. You're just gonna go buy goats with it if I give it to
no,
you.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You. I swear, I remember you saying it was gonna be 5, and then it was gonna be 8, and now it's like 400.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's subscribers.
No, goats.
Oh, I thought you were talking Patreon
No,
subscribers.
you had said we're gonna have like 5 goats, and then it was gonna be we're gonna have like 8
they
goats.
multiply. And we sell the ones we can, but we kept a lot of girls this year. So next year we're gonna have a lot.
Last words, and the goat whisperer is just gonna have more goats than people.
Funny how 5 goats turns into 18 or
Yeah.
27.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Gold Standard. We're a proud product of Little L Productions, along with this other fine programming as Godarchy with Mike Meharry, who had me on the show.
Yep.
So that's the end of his program. You don't make that mistake twice. You have the Sherry Voluntary Show, who's also had me on her program, so you'll never make that mistake twice either. You also have Postcards from Somalia, and as well as Sports Ball with Mike and Alan.
Yep.
It's a heck of a lineup of programs.
Yep.
People might have noticed this who've watched us long enough. We actually have commercials for those other programs.
Yeah, we do.
On this show.
Yeah.
So-
2 of them at least.
And we don't actually get paid to run those commercials.
No,
because
because we're just nice.
Because those are our friends.
Uh-huh.
But you could pay us in goodwill
Uh-huh.
by going to watch those programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just
Plus,
saying.
you know, the fact you're kind of co-host on each one of those programs.
Shut up. Jesus, you've ruined everything today.
That's just
And I
been one of
even
those
I
days.
even wore a suit again.
No, you didn't.
I even wore a suit again to try to, because somebody had said you should bring your suit back.
Yeah, well,
And
you
then-
look awesome in the suit.
And then everything went to shit after that.
I don't know. Did you bother wearing the pants?
Yeah, right there. So
I don't believe you.
everybody knows I don't wear pants when I do the Gold Standard. That's what the desk is for.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley is where you can find the streams of these programs. I wish I could tell you a specific day and time, but I haven't been able to nail that down yet because we've just been so busy with so many things that I haven't been able to run it at the same time every single week. So we ran the show with Remzo Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll run this Tuesday night. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, if you're hearing me say this, then it's running on the night you're hearing me say this.
Currently watching it.
Yeah, it's running on current day.
Yeah, so where does this happen in the movie?
Huh? Where does this happen in the movie?
Well, it's happening now, right?
Yeah.
Well, what about then?
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with
No,
that?
this is live.
This
We're
is
live
live.
right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Look,
Okay.
I mean, we can see the live chat. It's, hey, guys in the chat. This is live. This is all live.
Okay. I believe you.
And you can get those live streams at facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley.
Right.
And our Twitter is at Alan M. Mosley. But you don't have to do any of that. You could just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com.
That's right.
It doesn't have the most updated episode on the front page. It still has Ron Paul on the front page.
Leave them there forever. That way people
probably just gonna
actually pay
leave.
attention. Yeah.
I feel bad because I bet guests that we've had since then are like, well, he always puts the new episode on the front page, but he didn't put mine on. Well,
You're not Ron Paul. We love you, but sorry.
you said that, not me.
That's me. I know.
You said that, not
I love
me.
all of our guests, but they do the same thing.
You should support us at our Patreon.
Yes, you should.
Our Patreon is patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley, which has grown, believe it or not.
Good.
So, and I don't really know how to feel about that either, by the way. Like on the one hand, I want people to support us on our Patreon because we should get paid for doing this because this is a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
I mean, these fake plants don't buy themselves.
Hey, now you gave away that it's fake, man. I've been
But
watering
on
that
the
thing
other
every day
hand-
for years. I don't know why.
But on the other hand, when I do get money from people, I'm very humbled by that because I think they actually watched this show
Yeah.
and came away from the show with the thought, I should give that man some money. And I'm blown away by
Maybe they
that.
feel sorry for you.
I don't care what the reason is. There's no requirement on Patreon for you to have any particular sentiment as to why you're putting in the money. I'm just saying that we have more, and I thank you.
Yeah.
Who all the people out there that you know who you are.
Thank you.
So yeah, so thank you.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean I have to say thank you.
Yeah.
Because
They're buying you a cheeseburger.
Yeah, I mean, really feeling more
Yeah.
like nachos.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Ponchos.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah. This has gone way off the rails.
Yeah. If you're still watching this, you're awesome. You're hanging in there with us. You want to see where we're going to go.
The kind of people still watching this are the kind of people that go to patreon.com/TGS
right.
Alan Mosley and leave us money. That just amazes me. It just amazes me that in our niche little community, there are people out there that take it upon themselves to support one another.
But that's what it's all about, isn't it?
And I do that.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the 10th
So do
Amendment
I.
Center, and I support various other projects on Patreon.
That's right.
I support, I take that back. We have more Patreon. There was a time when I supported more Patreons than I had patrons. That's not the same anymore. But I mean, it only took 2 years to have more people.
2 years. That's good.
So I'm just saying.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.